Hi, everyone, and welcome to our How to Harvest Mason Bees webinar with Dave Hunter, founder and owner of Crown Bees.
Thanks,
Harvesting
Kim.
mason bee cocoons is an easy way to ensure a healthy mason bee population, so we appreciate you taking the time to learn how to harvest. In the webinar today, we will talk about why we harvest cocoons, the best harvesting practices for 3 different types of nesting materials, natural reeds, wood trays, and our bee tubes with inserts. Things you might find inside your nesting materials, and then how to clean and store your mason bee cocoons over the fall and winter. So we'll start with a few slides and show you some detailed pictures and video, and then Dave will demonstrate the harvesting process. And then we'll just finish up by showing you how and where to go on our website if you still have any questions. So with that, I will pass it over to Dave to get started.
Thanks, Kim. Let me share my screen. Out of the way. Okay. First of all, kind of the biggest thing, when you are harvesting cocoons, the question is, why would you even do this? We believe kind of threefold. We've learned that when you're raising a whole lot of one thing in a tight area where there's a lot of pollen, later on it's a lot of larvae, a lot of bees, pests just move in. It's not natural to have everything in one tight space. So the industry, as well as our company, we're very much advocates of loose cell management, where you're holding cocoons in your hands and you're just removing the pests and ultimately the diseases that are impacting these. So we think it helps you get larger and more healthier mason bee populations. Second one, boy, when you start doing well, you start just getting a lot of extra cocoons, and we know a lot of people across the country that are now sharing their cocoons with their local friends and families. And then when they still have even more, Crown Bees has a wonderful program with our Bee Buyback initiative. You send us your cocoons in the mail. We clean them up. We make sure that they're healthy. They're stored in our coolers. And then those bees head back towards other users or nurseries or farms in your area. And those bees are acclimated. So it's super important. Our company is big enough that we have a lot of cocoons ourselves, but we absolutely need bees from across the country to help us reach and get the other people with these cocoons that are acclimated to other areas. Okay, so when do you want to harvest? Typically now, this is September through December. If you've had a very tough summer where it's super hot and your bees were out there in that environment, what typically happens with this accelerated heat, the bees have moved probably a little faster than they needed to or were accustomed to. And so to get them into a cooler environment a little sooner, maybe a couple of weeks sooner than normal. So I would say if you're in a very hot environment, you might have maybe started doing this in September, late September. And then if you're just in a normal environment, October through December. You can harvest your cocoons out in January through March, but the closer you get to spring, the more that when you harvest, the bees will just feel that's something abnormal going on and emerge from their cocoons. So that's okay, but at this late, if you're at late in February, March, don't wash anything. That just probably wouldn't do any good. So what do you need? We've developed a lot of tools. Initially, a cocoon finder is just a simple little thing. We'll show you this in action. It helps you figure out whether or not to open reeds or anything. That's a simple device. We have a brand new little reed splitter that opens not only bamboo, but reeds. We're pulling cocoons out of trays that are really neat, super recycled plastic. This is the physical fishing gear that went into making these combs. If you're cleaning your trays, you're using stiff brushes. If you are choosing to wash your cocoons, having just a big bowl and a colander to get all the debris kind of pushed on through. Lastly, clean your area up. And we do recommend, rather than using bleach, we're using Clean Bee. We'll talk about that out there and kind of how to use that. And then lastly, as you're storing your cocoons in a refrigerator, here is a method, product that helps keep your cocoons humid and not dehydrated in modern frost-free refrigerator. Okay, we thought about it, and how can we simplify all of these practices into something that you can do at home? Well, we've broken this into 3 different sections. Wood trays. Very easy. We'll show you how to do this, but you're opening trays. You're just taking the backing off, using a comb to push out the cocoons and debris, brushing the trays off, and then you're reusing the trays, the rubber bands, and the backing or the pest blocker. Super easy. With reeds and bamboo, you do want to check. There are the filled reeds, super easy to find, but you also should be opening up the partially filled, and those that's where the cocoon finder comes in handy, just so that you don't have to open up an empty reed. You are either using your fingers to open them up. Our fingers get really tired after a period of time. That's how we came up with the cocoon splitter. And then there you're just removing cocoons and debris with a cocoon comb or something around you. The reeds are then thrown away. Inserts in bee tubes. Again, you could use our cocoon finder, but you are essentially pulling the inserts out, leaving the outer cardboard for next year. So you're not really nesting your bees in the cardboard, but they're inside the inserts. You've pulled those out. You've either torn them open by hand or, oh, so easy, tossing the inserts directly into just tepid water, warm water, and within 10 to 15 minutes, the glue's dissolved and you're just pulling strips of paper out. It's much, much easier than opening everything just by hand. So when you've opened things up, what do you find? This is a picture of a healthy mason bee cocoon. A long time ago, back in June, the larva was sitting there spinning its web, and these are all individual little strands of silk that as she or he was spinning it, they pushed all of their poop that was inside, a larva as it's eating pollen does have waste, push that outside. So you've got just a very clean looking cocoon with all the debris outside. You'll find the mason bee cocoons are either kind of a silvery for the eastern corner fronds or medium brown for the Lignaria that we've got on the western coast. Super easy to determine what's a cocoon and what's not. Now let's kind of talk through some of the pests. We came across this pest. It came in from Europe. This is the Houdini fly. These are pictures of maggots that are you'll find today. Someone from Europe sent someone in Seattle 5 or 6 years ago something that had this fly in there, and there's no predator for that fly in North America. So this fly, it stays as a larva all through the summer, all through the winter, and probably latter or early spring, it metamorphoses into a fly. It looks like a little fruit fly. This thing, once it emerges, flies a couple miles and just constantly infests and infests. So it's now all over British Columbia, all through Seattle, western Washington, all through Oregon, and now we hear it in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. So it's spreading rapidly out there, and this is because people don't harvest their cocoons. So the best way to get rid of this, when you find them, they're very sticky. Just put them in a plastic bag versus just tossing them away. We think they could still wind up in your local landfill and emerge somehow. So to kind of prevent this thing from moving, we're suggesting that you actually either smush them or put them in a plastic bag and get rid of them that way. Next kind of nasty little one, this is a spore called chalk brood. So back when the little larva was consuming its pollen and nectar inside its little mound here, in this little chamber were a couple little grains of this spore. Could have been on the wood tray from last year, could have been just in the front of the house, could have been in the garden. But this particular spore matches the chemistry of Osmia lignaria here in North America. And not very much later, as the larva gets big enough, all of a sudden it just dies, pulls itself into a letter C, and then as it's dead sitting there, the fungus expands past the body and makes a little mushroomy shape out there. This is real friable, that when you just touch it, it falls apart, and it's a spore. It gets on everything. And if you leave it in there, if you leave it in your wood trays or you don't wash your equipment, it'll just spread. And so we do have a video out there on how to use Clean Bee to get rid of the chalk root in a specific cell. It's nasty. Just be very wary of it. Sometimes it might not come all the way turn black, but you might get some other shapes that are similar. Just be careful. It's not a good pest to have. Polymites. This orange stuff you see, this is time lapse. It's moving a little fast, but these little buggies, man, their job is to eat pollen. This yellow stuff is their poop, and they're just a happy little bug that if you leave them, this is what the mound looks like beforehand. If you just leave it alone, they're fine. Your mason bee moves it through the as it emerges, it pushes it through. It's just kind of reintroduces it to your yard. And if you don't clean your wood trays out, that pollen mite stays behind. And as the new bee is reusing those old holes, this pollen mite, you're just giving them more pollen, and typically you'll wind up with mostly pollen mites, and the bees basically don't have anything themselves, so they've just fed the pollen mites, in not meaning to. But the best way to handle this is you're not going to do anything about it in your yard, but you can prevent it from being reintroduced, and that's just through harvesting. Last kind of one out there, the parasitic wasp. If you're using only inserts, or you've got cracks in things, Monodontomerus, this parasitic wasp, was able to inject its ovipositor right through the walls of just an insert, and the wasp eggs, there's maybe like a dozen eggs are inside there. It consumes the larva, mason bee larva that was in there. The larva was already busily spinning its cocoon, and with this thing now injecting its eggs next to it, they emerge, they eat the larva, turn into little adults, and will poke out. They'll just chew a hole right through the side wall of your inserts. Sometimes even B-tube inserts, they sometimes can manage to get through there. Rarely do they get through reeds, and rarely do they get through wood trays with the back on the tray. We'll show you that in our example. It's there, and there's not much you can do about it other than, I guess, be aware that it's there and have equipment, the right equipment to protect your larva beforehand. Okay, so how do you do all these little steps? What are you looking for? Kim and I, this is a fun little, this is a very busy slide, and this is actually just part of one of our pages of our Be Knowledgeable. If you get into here, click on Be Knowledgeable, drop on down to Mason Bees, and down here at the bottom of the page, you'll find this whole downloadable PDF that you can keep, print, pass to your friends. It has all the steps pretty much in there, fairly well thought through, and our want for you is to be successful. So that's why we've done that. Kim, would you mind showing a video of how to clean?
Yep, 1 second.
unheated, that's okay. Or store them in a fridge. And the humidity that we have there is designed to keep your, when you have that water inside there, it's designed to keep your cocoons at the right humidity level. If you do nothing, you'll dehydrate your cocoons. That's pretty simple there. Once a month, you're checking your, just opening things up, make sure there's enough water at the bottom, just maybe add a teaspoon or tablespoon in there, and do look for mold. We believe that if you keep your humidity in a paper bag, mold is an airborne spore coming from something else in a fridge. With the air currents in a fridge, it'll drop into there and find live surfaces and then create mold. But if you put them in a paper bag, we think you've licked that mostly. If not, if mold does grow in there, super easy. Just rinse the cocoons off in cold water, add a little bit of clean bee, clean the humidity with soapy water, and off you go. And then with the question of how many cocoons should you be sharing, we think keeping a couple hundred is about right. In a fun yard that's doing well, you're typically doubling at least 400 to 500 cocoons should come out of those 200. And so think about that and either share with friends or share with us. We'd love to team with you. Let me now shift seats. I'll be right back.
Okay. Thanks for switching things around, Kim. What we're looking at is we're going to be opening up either wood trays or walking through reeds or opening up paper inserts. On the inserts, let's start there first. And typically, you're going to be having your inserts going to be inside of a bee tube. If you only used a bee tube, these are really hard to open up. You can do it. You can spin them around. You can maybe drop the whole bee tube into water, and maybe half an hour later the glue dissolves. We don't really recommend having only bee tubes. Make sure you're using inserts. You can get them up, but it's not as easy. With inserts, two little choices. You can sit here. You can peel them. It is typically, they will unravel. So you can do this. It just takes a while. And so what we've learned to do is to take inserts, just take the whole pile and toss them into a tub of water and mix them around a little bit. I did this beforehand. This is, let me show you here on a little smaller version. I did this probably about 15 minutes ago. You can see how the everything just opens up. The Polymites are here, but these things just lift right out, and it's real easy just to mix things around. So an easy path with inserts is just a tub of water. Next, reeds. So when you're looking at reeds, sometimes it's really easy if the reed has it's completely filled. Of course, you'll open those things up, but the partially filled reeds, as you're taking a cocoon finder or anything similar to this, if you're pushing back to the end, there's going to be, I've got a cocoon at the tail end here. In fact, I'm just going to open it up that to show. Sure enough, there was a little divider right there that had a cocoon on that part. And when you're doing this, realize that sometimes there's an inner fiber. If it doesn't feel solid, I'm actually able to push past this. And this was an empty reed. I just want to show you what went on there. When you push past it, it's kind of a spongy piece over here on the side. You can see as I was pushing, there's a lot of this inner lining was in the way, and so it felt spongy. So we just don't want you opening up a reed that was empty. But when you are, opening up a full reed, super easy. It's a crack on the back side, and then you're able to completely get access to this. If you don't have this, you can use your fingers, and I'm simply take my fingers on the end, crimping it, and then breaking it apart. And it doesn't always do it perfectly when you finger. So I'm trying to open it a few times, and it's just a little messier. So this is why we think the cocoon or the reed splitter is the right answer. We've also learned this is a wonderful tool for when you have bamboo that you might have had from a lot of people have gotten this from Costco, and you know, how do you open these things up? Boy, when you're in here cracking with our reed splitter, just super easy almost every time. So we think this is a great tool to consider buying. And then lastly, if I'm out here with wood trays, I'm reusing my rubber bands. With the cardboard backing that's on the back here, years ago we just had the cardboard sitting on the back of the trays, and we really didn't think this, we didn't realize how the parasitic wasps were getting down between the wood trays and the cardboard backing and had access to all the females down the back side. Well, that was we realized then putting a filter across the backside as a pest blocker keeps those parasitic wasps out. So super vital that you have this and keep it. With the trays, I'm just going to grab down to a layer here I know has something in it. Oh gosh, here's Kim, let me show you on the side picture here. Here is this is Houdini fly down inside there. But what we're doing with our tray, and here's Houdini fly here and here, but I'm just using just to go through there and get everything out. It's a super little comb that well, we use here ourselves as well. What else might you find inside your nesting holes? If you've left your nesting holes outside during the entire summer, you might find leaf cutters inside there. These are leaf cutter bees that had a whole series of leaves that were inside there. You can open them up now if you wish to. You can even see by the ends, these, at the end of this, it's not a mud ending. This is a leafy end. So I'm pretty comfortable that's a leaf cutter. You can harvest now, but I would not probably put these inside your refrigerator. We're always very careful that I think leafy material in the refrigerator is just going to get rotten. And so if you're going to do anything, either harvest now or wait till spring and keep the cocoons out there in a unheated shed or garage. This season we were going through one of our other nesting tubes and found this fluff. Well, what's that? This is actually down from flowers, and deep inside these things were cocoons. And this is the wool carder bee, and rather than use mud, they've just used downy material. And so what we're doing is probably going to keep this also in our shed. You could be finding parasitic wasps. You could be finding a whole bunch of good guys. If it's a cocoon and it's a single cocoon, this is typically signs that it's something you want to keep. Mason bees are the farmers, and your parasitic wasps are maybe your soldiers from your yard, and it all takes all sorts of things to keep a yard balanced. Do you need to wash your cocoons? If you've just got cocoons and a little bit of frass, the poop, no, not really. It's not really that important. You can pick out the mud, you can put them in a colander. You don't really need to wash everything. Okay? If you do wash, what we're doing is throwing them into cold water and stirring them all around. This was, I'm just stirring them around. You've got them, you saw the video. I'm now scooping out cocoons, and at the tail end, when you're laying out your, I'm just cleaning my cocoons. So I've got something in front of me. I'm taking my cocoons that have been wet, sprinkling on here. I found when I just did this earlier today, I found at the bottom of this, there were some Houdini fly maggots that were just in there. I'm picking those out. So with your last little step before you're going to go out and store these is placing, leaving your cocoons out there. With your clean bee, you're just doing a spritz a couple times on all the cocoons, rolling back and forth a couple times. And all that's doing is just knocking off diseases, any fungus spore. It's a really good product. You can spray this in your eye. It's a very innocuous product that we're super satisfied does kill spores and diseases, but has no harm for pets or humans or anything. From here, all we're doing now is shifting into storage. You saw the video where we're putting them into a humidity or putting them into some container for your garage. And the question is, which one is right for you? What we've learned that a mason bee survives on their stored fats. Today, their fuel tanks are 100%. Through the winter, they're going to slowly get by, maybe Christmas 50%. By the time spring around you rolls into place, around here in the Northwest, maybe it's early April, their consumed fats are maybe down to 15 or 20%. If you've got a winter that's longer or shorter, you're not really quite sure, keeping the bees in a refrigerator has their metabolism really low and just allows them to survive that much longer. So their stored fats, you can hold these bees now all the way through till May. And so we believe a refrigerator is best. If it's cold outside and you really aren't, you don't want to put them in your fridge, storing them into a mouse-proof or rat-proof container in your garage is just fine. If you found a lot of things with mono, this is a you can use a bright light. This is a LED light that you can see through. You can see cocoons that have, when a mason bee had the parasitic wasp laid next to it, your mason bees typically have been spinning the cocoon, but it might stop partway through as it dies. They don't have the cocoon as thick, and so you can see right through it easily. And when you're looking at this guy, it's pretty opaque. This one has a bee in it, and you can still see maybe the shape through there. If you really question what's going on, I think putting everything into a Brian, bee guard bag. I've got a teammate here with me. Putting everything into all of your cocoons into a bee guard bag, and in the spring, you're going to see the mason bees emerge. You're just letting those out. If you've got parasitic wasps or something else coming through, you're just going to, smush those inside there. So a bee guard bag is a simple device. If you don't want to go through and harvest this entire piece, it would be better to, get all the cocoons out. You can put the entire house into a bee guard bag, and as the bees are emerging daily, you're just letting the bees out of the bag, and they're not able to fly back in where there's the pests that would be inside. You'll be able to smush the Houdini flies. You'll be able to get rid of everything. So this is a real helpful piece in the spring moments. That's it. We're going to go to questions next. So we appreciate your time. It's a simple process. The tail end, we want you to consider Crown Bees is here for you. If you have any questions, our website, the Bee Knowledgeable, is robust. It's there for you. If you have any questions, you want to talk with someone or email someone, we've got a good customer service. There's a little leaf down in the corner of a cell phone or on the page of a website. Ask questions there. We're there for you. And if you do have extra cocoons, do consider our bee buyback program. It's there for us to help more people learn about these awesome bees. Thanks for watching.